Hello everybody and welcome to the Premier Grand League Season 1 Draft Overview with me, Jake, Jack of Spatesman, Jeff, whatever you want to call me, but limited to those three. So this is going to be a draft overview of the 8 teams in the PGL, or Premier Grand League, Grande, not sure how we're pronouncing it. So the 8 teams, my thoughts of each team, the pros and cons of it, and at the end an overall kind of ranking system in terms of offense, defense, and overall, and I'll go into that later. So the first team is the New York Luxrays, headed by Alex, with a team of Mega Pinsir, Landorus Therian Form, Rotom Wash, Alolan Muck, Porygon 2, Magneton, Mismagius, Latios from Tier 1, Arcanine from Tier 2, Mudsdale from Tier 4, and Frogadier from Tier 5. So just the order listed is Mega, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, and then the free slots, which I'm obviously highlighting for you as what tiers they are. So you'll notice right off the bat, it's a very bulky offense team, with your Mega Pinsir, Landorus, Alolan Muck, Latios, Rotom Wash, Arcanine, Mudsdale, as well as your fast contenders with, again, Pinsir, Latios, Mismagius, Frogadier. So the things I really like about this team are obviously that bulky offense. I know Alex is a veteran player who is a very good pilot of bulky offense, and that's one of the reasons I like this team. As a standalone team, if I was looking at it, I'd say, that's decent, like, you're kind of lacking a few things. But I know Alex is a very capable coach of this team. So the biggest things are the fact that there's no grass type on this team kind of shakes things up. I feel like grass types are few and far between, and having one on your team can make a big difference. But one of the biggest things grass types do is resist ground type moves, right? As well as water, but he has 2 water resists that are just fine. Frogadier, which isn't a real resist to anything. Porygon 2, which resists everything. And I mean, he has tons of ground immunities. He has his Landorus, he has his Pinsir when it's Mega Evolved, Rotom, Mismagius, and Latios. Like, that's plenty. So the grass type doesn't really affect much. The one that does affect a lot of things is not having a fairy type. And that's a really, really rough thing to have. I think fairy types in Generation 7 as well as 6 are a necessary type for a team. As well as the fact that his only steel type is Magneton, which I feel like isn't a real steel type, and you'll hear me bring that up later. I don't feel like it functions as a steel type. Yes, it has those resists, but it's more offensive than anything, and I think steel types primarily need to be defensive for a team to work. But again, it's Alex. He'll prove me wrong. Another thing is that because Magneton is a steel type, that's his only fairy resist, which is kind of awful to have. But he does have Muck. Alolan Muck, I mean, yes, it doesn't resist fairies, but with that massive, 105 in HP and special defense, it can pretty much tank them, and fairies aren't going to want to stay in against Muck unless they're at plus 10. So, overall, yeah, the pros of the team, it's a strong and bulky offense. Several Pokemon can set up and win. Just to go back, we have Pinsir, Latios, Muck, Mismagius, I guess Arcanine can set up a bit. And yeah, Pokemon that just have absolutely incredible typings are kind of tough to hit on the team. The problems, as I said, are lack of a defensive core, no fairy type, and a steel type that doesn't really do its job as a defensive steel type. So overall, yeah, it's a strong and bulky offense team that compensates for its lacking defense, as well as a type diversity that kind of makes the team difficult to build against and break through. I'll just let you see the team again to let you gather those thoughts. And we'll move on to the next team, which is the Copenhagen Cobalions, led by Lolly, with a team of Mega Gallade, Clefable, Ferrothorn, Hurum, regular form, Doublade, Delphox, Weezing, Starmie from Tier 2, Gliscor from Tier 2, Vikavolt from Tier 4, and Como from Tier 2. So you see a lot of Tier 2 freeze, and that's because Mega Gallade gave him 20 extra points, giving him 420 points. So he decided to take 3 Tier 2s for 360 points, and then a 60-point Tier 4, which I think is a great allocation of your points. Not having another Tier 1 is a bit of a hindrance, but I think the team is It's pretty solid on its own, but not perfect, and I'll go into that. So one of the biggest issues that I've seen with this team is it's very knockoff weak. You have one Pokemon that's like, yeah, I'll take a knockoff. You have Komo-o, which doesn't care about knockoff, especially if it's holding a Z move, and Clefable, which very often needs its leftovers or Rocky Helmet to function as intended. I mean, Mega Gallade can take it, but still, it doesn't have that physically defensive prowess to be taking knockoffs all day. That's one thing. The other thing is a bit Fire-type weak. So, with Delphox and Starmie as his only two resist, Starmie's not the bulkiest Pokemon, and Delphox isn't either. I mean, it can take a specially oriented fire hit, but if it's physically oriented, that Delphox isn't going to be enjoying it. So, the other thing is his Fire Water Grass Core is not defensive. He has Ferrothorn, which is obviously extremely defensive, but Delphox and Starmie don't really lean that way. I know Starmie can be run defensively. I've run it myself. I personally don't really like it. Again, while he's a great coach, he'll probably prove me wrong, but these are just my thoughts. I think the team is great in terms of speed tiers. He has a 110 with Mega Gallade, 95 with Kyurem, Delphox at 104, Starmie at 115, Komo-o able to set up its speed. I think the team is in a good spot, but it just has these little holes that make it kinda tricky to call incredible. So the pros are obviously many diverse Pokemon that can have many diverse builds with their movesets. You have Mega Gallade, which has every fucking physical move ever. Clefable can run a bunch of different things. Delphox can run a bunch of different things. Kyurem, Como, all these Pokemon are rather unpredictable. There are some that, yeah, they have more predictable movesets, Vikavolt, Weezing, and Gliscor, as well as Ferrothorn. But for the most part, I'd say it's a diverse team. He actually has a double Dragon and double Steel, and I've run into issues with my own team building saying, damn, I really wish my Steel type worked in this match, or I wish my Dragon type worked in this match. And by having two, he can always say, okay, this Dragon type is the best for this match, this Steel type is the best for this match. And it almost always allows him to bring a Fire or Fairy Steel Dragon core, which is great. As I said, great speed tiers, great fast Pokemon, great middle-of-the-line Pokemon, really good. The cons, as I said, are his Fire and Water types aren't fantastic for defensive capabilities or setup or anything. The knockoff weakness, and he only has one Pokemon to properly defend against flying attacks, and that is his Doublade. Everything else either takes neutral or super effective, and that's no good. Flying type spam isn't prevalent in the league, but if someone decides, hey, I'm going to run a sneak flying type attack, Lolly's going to have no way to defend against that. So overall, I think the team's threatening in offense and defense, but there are just so many little holes in the team that are going to be exploitable that causes the team to really fall flat a bit. And I know I've given this team some praise, but overall, I don't think it's gonna make the cut with those little holes. Next team is the Monterey Gyarados, headed by Mora. Mora's a coach I haven't had as much experience watching, but I know he is fantastic. So a team of Mega Lopunny, Zygarde in its 50% form, Florges, Greninja, Lycanroc Dusk form, Bronzong, Leavanny, Mew from Tier 1, Ditto from Tier 4, Chandelure from Tier 3, and Exploud from Tier 4. So the biggest thing that stands out about this team to me is just how offensive it is. You have Mega Lopunny, Greninja, Lycanroc Dusk, Exploud, Chandelure, and Zygarde that are just disgustingly powerful. Then you have an interesting other Pokemon. You have your Florges and your Bronzong, which are obviously great defenders, and you have Mew, which is just a pain in the ass Pokemon to deal with. It can do anything. It really can, and that's a big pivot on this team. And Ditto is also so annoying to deal with. With setup-heavy teams, like my own, which I'll get to, Ditto is a Pokemon that you just always have to be weary of. It's always lurking, saying, hey, get to +6, and I'll reverse sweep you with my 5 PP. So Ditto's always a scary Pokemon to deal with. As I said, the team's very offensive. Even the Fire, Water, Grass core is offensive with Leavanny, which isn't a good Pokemon. Chandelure and Greninja, so another bad Fire, Water, Grass. Really good Fairy Steel Dragon. Very good Fairy Steel Dragon. I would say one of the best in the league, hands down. But that's the only defensive prowess the team has. And I'm a little biased. I'm a balanced player. I don't think Hyper Offense is that good. I don't think Stall is that good, especially in leagues. I think you need to strike the right balance in leagues, and that's like the only way to win. So to go over it, yeah. Extremely fast Pokemon that have tons of priority. You have Greninja with Water Shuriken, you have Accelerock on Lycanroc, you have Extreme Speed on Zygarde, you have Lopunny with Fake Out, and Mew that can learn every damn move in the book. Makes it very tough to defend against. As well as the fact that Mew and Ditto together, I think are gross. Ditto with the reverse sweeps, Mew being able to do anything, having to combat both is really tough. So some of the downfalls of the team are lack of a bulky offense. So, as I said, most of the offense on this team is very fast, with no bulk. You have Lopunny, Greninja, Lycanroc, and that's sad. Zygarde is like the standout point of this team. It's bulky offense with enough speed, and I think it's going to be Moore's MVP, definitely. I think it could lead the league in KOs just based on how the team kind of functions around it. But lack of that Fire, Water, Grass core sucks. Bulky offense lacking sucks. And I really don't understand Moore's decision to pick up a Sticky Web user in Leavanny when his team already has Greninja, Lycanroc, Lopunny, Zygarde. Like, all these Pokemon are fast. I don't know what you need Sticky Webs for. It's very redundant, and it really makes your Grass type fall flat. You're better off without a Grass type than having Leavanny. So, overall, hyper-offensive team that's going to mash through Pokemon, but the lack of defense really makes this team easy to just attack without any resent. Like, you're just going to be doing damage to it. Even the defensive Pokemon on the team, like Bronzong can't recover, Florges is a really good Pokemon, I'll give it that. Mew has to decide whether it wants to be defensive or offensive, so it's probably going to be defensive every week because Moore's team is way too offensive to begin with. So yeah, again, I think balance is the way to go, and Mora went completely one way, and I don't think that's the way to play. The next team is the South Holland Pyroars, led by Medi, or Medigen, with a team of Mega Scizor, Tapu Koko, Volcanion, Nidoqueen, Decidueye, Mesprit, Liepard, Hawlucha from Tier 2, Snorlax from Tier 2, Druddigon from Tier 4, and Sharpedo from Tier 3. I'm so stupid I was just looking at the pictures to try to decipher the Pokemon instead of looking at the list I made for myself. So, standouts of this team. You have Koko Lucha, which is incredible, no matter what. You have, I think, one of the best Megas in leagues, Scizor, which can be defensive or offensive. And those are the real standouts of the team. I think the rest of the team kind of falls a bit flat, other than Snorlax, which, I mean, once the team is chipped down by Koko Lucha plus Mega Scizor, Snorlax can just kind of be a bulky motherfucker and just stand in things' ways. So one of the big standouts to me is Volcanion. So I've used Volcanion in the past. I have very mixed feelings about it that lean in the direction of it's terrible. And I know that doesn't sound mixed, but believe me, I have mixed feelings on Volcanion. They lean toward terrible. It can be amazing, it can be terrible. I think on this team, it doesn't do its job. So you've heard me say it once, and I'll say it again. Fire, Water, Grass core. Let's see. Decidueye, great Grass type. Fantastic Grass type. Has Roost, has offense, really good. You have your Fire type, which is only Volcanion. Volcanion's is only Fire type, and I don't think it works. It just doesn't. It's not fast enough, it's not bulky enough, it doesn't have recovery, all its stats are lacking. It can't defend itself well enough, it can't outspeed anything, it's stupid, it's a stupid Pokemon. It's so bad. But it's also so good at times. And that's also his water type, unless you want to count Sharpedo, but with what, like, literally it looks like half a fish. And that's the way it defends, like half a fish. So anything is just going to punch that in the mouth, even if it's a resisted hit, you're doing 80%. so Sharpedo doesn't count toward that water type, so that sucks. His steel type's fantastic. His dragon type, I think, could be better, but for a tier 4 pick, that's fine. It has the utility it needs with Glare, Stealth Rock, Sheer Force, Rough Skin, like, solid Pokemon. I'll take it as a pickup. Tapu Koko being the only fairy type he has, I think is a real drag. So you've heard me say real steel type in the past. I'm going to call Tapu Koko not a real fairy type. It doesn't have the resistances it needs. It doesn't have the bulk it needs. I mean, yes, it has Roost for recovery. It has setup, but it doesn't do its job as a steel type. Or a fairy type. It's a primarily electric type. But I'll look past it because this team really functions around Tapu Koko well. So he has Volt Turn with Scizor and Tapu Koko and Decidueye. It's just a pain to deal with that. Mesprit has some good utility. He has T-Spikes to couple with the Volt Turn, so you can't switch in punish switch-ins because you're going to have to deal with Toxic Spikes and Rocks. Sadly, I think that's his only Hazard Setter. Mesprit can get up Rocks, I believe. Could be wrong, could be right. But let's go to the overview. So, obviously, Koko, Lugia, Scizor, oh my, and Volt Turn Helpless T-Spikes, I went over. I went over the fact that a Fire, Water, Grass core doesn't really exist, and his Fairy type isn't a true Fairy type. So I hit on all the points here, but I really think it's a fast and powerful mix of Pokemon that you have bulk, you have speed, and just switching doesn't work against this team. You're going to have to be pivoting in and out and dealing with any attacks that are going to come into you, and you're going to get punished for that. The only problem is it lacks defensive capabilities. I think a lot of the teams in this league are really focused on offense when in a higher level you need to focus on that balance. So again, high praises to this team for its offensive power, but it just kind of falls a bit flat. His defensive units in, I mean, primarily Nidoqueen, honestly, and Decidueye and Druddigon, they don't have recovery. Mesprit doesn't have recovery. That's bad. You can't have defense and not have recovery. You're just going to get fucked. So the next team is the Amherst Excelgors, led by my good friend Prophylaxis, which has a team of Mega Alakazam, Tapu Lele, Mandibuzz, Cobalion, Roserade, Electros, Piloswine, Garchomp from Tier 1, Suicune from Tier 2, Blaziken from Tier 4, and Scyther from Tier 5. So obviously the standout is Tapu Lele, Mega Alakazam. What switches in on that? Not much. It's going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage. I mean, it's a bit weak to Scarf users, but Tapu Lele can Scarf itself, so who cares? So, in terms of offense, it looks pretty good. I wouldn't say the best. It's a bit gimmicky. The only thing that really stands out to me is Mega Alakazam, Tapu Lele. Garchomp's good, I guess. Well, I don't guess. Garchomp's really good. Blaziken falls flat. Cobalion, I feel like, falls flat. Roserade has to decide what the hell it wants to do. Scyther's weak to rocks. Electros is an idiot. That's it. So a bit lacking in offense other than the one little trick with Lele Zam, which again is tough to deal with, but manageable. I wouldn't say it's a scary offense, I would say it's scary-ish. It's kind of like predictable, you know? Another big problem is that his team only has one Fairy Resist. That's Roserade. That's why I said it has to make up its mind with what it wants to do. It's either resisting Fairy attacks, or it's being offensive and losing. And not having a Fairy Resist on a team, really, really bad. As I said, really bad. The only other typing that resists Fairy are Fire, which Blaziken is Fire fighting, so it doesn't do that, and Steel, which Cobalion is Steel fighting. So he's just going to have to deal with... Cobalion's not a real Steel type. That's what I've been referring to this whole time. Not a real Steel type. Cobalion, you are the biggest piece of shit Pokemon. You have nothing. You have Swords Dance, you have Rock Polish, sure, you can hit kinda hard and defend well, get up rocks, Thunder Wave, but you are not a Steel type. I'm sorry, buddy, you're not. And that's terrible. The other thing is his Fire, Water, Grass core is again lacking. His Grass type doesn't defend against Earthquake. His Fire type doesn't resist Fairy. Both are relatively offensive. Suicune, really good Pokemon, really good water type. It can win games by itself, but again, you just have to prepare for it well, and in a team of 8 phenomenal players, I don't think Suicune's going to get as many easy wins. So, Mega Alakazam Tapu Lele is great. Obnoxiously bulky Pokemon like Suicune and Mandibuzz are just going to be able to chip away at teams without giving a shit. But the offense is frail. Each Pokemon's predictable. It doesn't have much versatility. Brilliant sucks. Bad Fire, Water, Grass Core. Like, name one Pokemon on this team where you're like, oh wow, I didn't expect that move. Like, I don't know, Tapu Lele Z Focus Blast? No, that's rather predictable. Everything on this team is predictable. There's no Pokemon on the team where you're like, whoa, I didn't expect it to run that move. Scyther with Brick Break. But it hits hard, but it gets hit just as hard in return. You're going to switch something in, you're going to do 80% damage with Tapu Lele, then you're going to lose your Tapu Lele. Oh no. Then you're going to switch in your Mega Alakazam. What's it going to do? Revenge kill the Pokemon and then fucking die, because Mega Alakazam can't take a hit because it's made of sticks. Again, only one Fairy Resist makes things obnoxiously difficult to deal with. Next is the Tapu Loco is led by Sky, and I hate his fucking mascot so much, it makes me want to die. So he has a team of Mega Diancie, Kyurem Black, Buzzwole, one of my favorite Pokemon, Amoonguss, Nidoking, Cofagrigus, Rotom, Tornadus form from Tier 1, Slowking from Tier 3, Alolan Persian from Tier 4, and Registeel from Tier 4. So big standouts of this team are 3 Regenerators, Slowking, Amoonguss, and Tornadus. One issue is he doesn't have much pivoting, but I think it's enough. He has Rotom for Volt Switch, Tornadus can U-turn itself out, and then switch into different Pokemon to resist what it's really weak to, primarily, I guess, Nidoking, or Registeel can also handle that. Not Ninetales. Persian can also do Parting Shot and then go into Tornadus so it can get more regen and not take as much damage. I think it's a well thought out team. Great speed tiers. He has Tornadus, which is fast. He has Rotom, which is decently fast. He has Kyurem, which is pretty fast. Diancie, which is fast. Nidoking, which is a bit middling, but it does the job. And then he has his slow Pokemon that fill their roles perfectly in terms of bulk. Persian is also fast at 115, so I think just great picks for speed. Bulky offense is terrifying. Diancie's pretty bulky, I guess. Kyurem and Buzzwole are terrifyingly bulky. Tornadus can be made bulky. It's a pain in the ass. Slowking could be bulky if it wanted. You could run Curse Registeel. So I think this is a really good team. Good strike of balance. Do I have negative things to say? Yeah, he doesn't have a fire type. He doesn't have a fire type. Fire types are crucial. How are you beating steel types with this team? You Buzzwole, I guess, but hint, you're not beating good steel types. And you're also weak to steel types. Where's the resist on this team? You have Registeel, you have Slowking, that's it. Other than that, you're going to be taking big damage from steel types, and that's a no-no. But overall, I mean, fast, hard-hitting Pokemon, 3 regens, mid-speed, bulky offense Pokemon are scary as hell. Where's the fire? There is none. How do I beat good steel types? You don't, Sky. Sorry. Each Pokemon, though, overall, is incredible in its own right, but some of the team just doesn't come together. I mean, you have your 2 Regenerators pivoting into each other. That's a great core. You have your other Regenerator, but, like, you don't have the proper Volt Turn combos to handle that. Your Mega Diancie isn't backed up because you don't have a good Steel resist. You have good Ground resist, that's fine. Whereas you have a good Water resist, yeah, I mean, it's decent. Your Steel, Fairy, Dragon Core, your Dragon's also weak to Steel, so have fun with that. But it's pretty good. Lack of a Fire type makes things tough, and there's also a slight Ground weakness. You have 1 resist and 2 immunities, which is decent, but the rest of the team kind of gets shit on for it. So overall, I do like the team. I know I'm shitting on it a lot. but I think it strikes the perfect balance of Pokemon to be able to handle pretty much any situation, except for Fire types and Steel types. So here we go to my team, and I'm going to be a little weird about this one. It's hard to rate your own team. So the Boston Blackjacks, led by Jack of Spades, man, that's me, with Mega Gyarados, Jirachi, Volcarona, Tangros, Tyrantrum, Jellicent, Tauros, Zapdos from Tier 1, Sylveon from Tier 2, Gligar from Tier 4, and Hitmontop from Tier 4. So, one of my favorite things is Intimidate users, and I have 3 of them on this team. Tauros isn't a great one, but I needed it to patch up a bit of speed. Hitmontop's great, and Gyarados pre-Mega can also Intimidate on pivots. So one of the biggest pros and cons at the same time with my team, I feel, is that it's very setup dependent. If I can't set up, I pretty much lose. I can try to outbulk them and stall them out, but overall I think I drafted a very setup heavy team, which is okay. It's just situational, and I need to go around that. I think I have one of the best Fire, Water, Grass, and Fairy, Steel, Dragon cores in the league. My Fire type's offensive, my Dragon type's offensive, my Steel and Fairy work well together as defensive, my Water and Grass work well together as a defensive unit. That's great. One of the biggest shortcomings of the team is 2 things. I'm pretty weak to hazards. I have Volcarona, which is 4x weak, Gyarados, which comes in at 1 times weak, Zapdos, which comes in at 1 times weak, and what, 2 resist maybe? Yeah, 2 resist. I have Jirachi and Hitmontop. My removal, I mean, I have 3 removers, but my main one is weak to rocks to begin with, so that's fun. But overall, I think I drafted a fantastic team, and I'm very happy with it. Gligar being able to set up rock and get rid of rocks, Sylveon being able to defend, Wish, and Cleric. Jirachi, I think, could be the best Steel type. It's so good. Just 100s across the board, access to Wish, that's not something you find every day. It has some exploitable weaknesses, but on the team, I have checks to that. So what did I forget? Triple Intimidate, strong setup sweepers, great cores, bad rock weaks. I only have 2 resists. Those are Hitmontop and Jirachi, yeah. Oh yeah, my team is slow. It's really weird. I have 1 Pokemon above 100 speed. You have Volcarona at 100, you have Jirachi at 100, you have Zapdos at 100. 2 of those often don't even run max speed. Volcarona does. And, I mean, it's 4 times weak to rocks, so, I mean, Volcarona's kind of an interesting Pokemon. I do have some setup speeds, though. I have 2 Dragon Dancers, which is always nice. But my only one above 100 speed is Tauros, and it's a weird mon in its own right. So overall, I think my team is strong, both offensively and defensively. Kind of a double-edged sword with setup, and I think it's obviously chipped away at by hazards. Did I change my name in between these slides? Yeah, I did. Nice. Only person I did that for. So last team is the Stevanage Muse, led by Swiss, with a team of Mega Venusaur, Celesteela, Reuniclus, Rotom Heat, Zygarde 10% form, Seismitoad, Miltank, Diancie from Tier 4, Scolipede from Tier 2, Archeops from Tier 5, and Weavile from Tier 1. So, I've gone so back and forth with this team. I'll be honest, at one point I ranked this the worst team in the league. But after looking at it more, and prepping for it week 1, I've realized just how good the team is. So the biggest thing that stands out to me is its defensive capabilities. You have Celesteela and Venusaur, Mega. Nothing's breaking that. Absolutely nothing. The only Pokemon I can think of is Delphox or Victini because of Fire and Psychic types, or like Moltres. Just something that can hit both super effectively. But then you have to answer to things like Seismitoad or Z Aquatail, Scolipede. I don't know. It's kind of crazy what you have to deal with. You have to deal with Zygarde 10% form hitting you with 1,000 arrows or Stone Edge or something. And I mean, it can't hit super hard, but it's so fast that who cares? So the bulk on this team is crazy. The speed on this team is crazy. You have Zygarde 10% going fast. You have Weavile going fast. You have a speed boosting Scolipede going fast. You have, for bulk, you have Reuniclus, you have Miltank, you have Seismitoad, you have Venusaur, you have Celesteela. And they all cover each other's weaknesses so well. You have Sapsipper Miltank to handle Seismitoad. Like, that's crazy. This team's so good. The only problem I see with this team is It has, what, like 2 hazard removals that are both weak to rocks. And I feel like it's a bit setup weak, right? So a lot of the team being defensive, it's kind of passive. So if you can set up with Dragon Dance, Quiver Dance, whatever you want to use, you can try to break through this team relatively, not easily, because Celesteela and Venusaur are still a big pain in the ass. But it's going to be breakable, right? I can't say Hazard weak, because not many Pokemon are weak to Hazards on this team. And you can't really Toxic Spikes very easily with Scolipede and Venusaur able to just eat them. Reuniclus not giving a shit about Hazards. And Deancey and Miltank having Heal Bell, like, okay. So overall, Mega Venusaur and Celesteela can just solo teams. You could bring those 2 Pokemon and win a match. It's his sweepers just get the job done. They're not the best, but they get the job done. Amazing Vulcan type combinations, right? That's what I'm saying with Mega Venusaur and Celesteela, but as well as the rest of the team, it meshes really well, and makes it terrifying to try to break. Cons of the team are it has kind of weakness to setup heavy teams like mine. All his fast Pokemon have some exploitable weaknesses and very frail defenses. So obviously fast Pokemon are generally not going to be the bulkiest, but like at least they'll have one thing going for them. Like you have Weavile 4 times weak to fighting, you have Zygarde 4 times weak to ice, you have Scolipede which can't take a damn hit, you have Archeops with Defeatist. Like, good luck with that. But overall, I think this is, again, I've spoke about balance a lot, I think this is the most balanced team. I think with the best walls and the best sweepers. Let's talk about the Fire, Water, Grass. Really good. Let's talk about the Steel, Dragon, Fairy. A bit lacking, but who cares, Celesteela. So now I'm going to go over the rankings of how I feel everyone stacks up in the PGL. So first is offensive draft rankings. Just looking at things, I think Medi with the South Holland Pyroars has the best offensive team. Again, you have Coco Lucha and Mega Scizor. Those 3 alone are disgusting. Then you have Snorlax on top of that. You have Sharpedo able to speed boost. You have Nidoqueen, which can run a few things. I think it's a great offensive team. Next is Monterey Gyarados, which we went over being the most hyper-offensive team in the league. Alex with the New York Luxrays, with that very, very bulky offense, I think is going to do fantastic. Sky with the Tapu Locos also has a fantastic offensive prowess with Mega Diancie, Kyurem Black, Buzzwole, Tornadus. I think that's a great combo. Swiss with the Stevanage Muse. This is going into the lower rankings, but obviously this isn't how good they are. This is how they stack up against each other. Because Swiss's team has great offense. Just not as great as the ones above it. Next is my team. I think my team's a lot more defensive, but I mean, Mega Gyarados with Volcarona and Tyrantrum, like, those are pretty strong. And I'm happy with that. Amherst Excelgors is next, because really, I just don't like this team. I'm sorry, Steven. I'm sorry I have to come down on you. The only thing you have going for you is Lele Zam. Prove me wrong, please, because I'd love to see it happen. And last is the Copenhagen Cambalians, and I know I spoke my praise of this team, but someone's got to be in last, and I think Lolly kind of falls short in that. His team's a lot more defensive, with Clefable, Ferrothorn, Doublade, Gliscor. Like, nothing really stands out as a huge offensive threat. But please, prove me wrong, Lolly. Next, we're going into the defensive draft rankings. I think my team's the best in that way. I might be biased, but I think it's the best defensive team. Sorry if that sounds egotistical. I really didn't want to put myself in first, but after going back and forth, I really do think I have the best defensive team. Next, I put Swiss with the Stevanage Muse. Like, his team's kind of disgusting on that front. If you look between us, he's above me in offense. I'm above him in defense by 1 point. Like, that's okay. Copenhagen Cambalians are in third. As I said, pretty good defense. Tapu Locos, Sky hitting that 4th place again. I think his defense works just right for the team, but it's nothing to be, like, gawking at. Next is Alex, the New York Luxrays. Again, not that much defense, but just being so bulky, it's going to be tough to break. Obviously, as we go down the line, you're going to see the more offensive players get less defense unless they're balanced. So next is South Holland Pyroars. I think he has just enough defense to support his massive offense. Like, Scizor can be defensive, right? Decidueye is decent. Drotagon, Snorlax, they're pretty decent. Like, he has some bulk that kind of handles it. Next is the Amherst Excelgor. Sorry, Steven. Your defense sucks. You have Mandibuzz and Suicune. That's it. Both are weak to electric. Sorry, bud. And last is Moro with the Monterey Gyarados. You probably saw this one coming for last place. It's a hyper offense team. You're not going to have that much defense. You have Florges, you have Mew. You have Bronzong. That's all you do. That's it. So the overall rankings, I think. Swiss in first with the Stvantage Muse. I spoke very highly of this team. I think it's going to be the team to beat this season. It has just the right bulk, just the right offense, and I think it's going to do work. Next is my team. Again, I didn't want to put myself this high, but after going back through things, I think I stack up against everyone really well. I think my team can really hold its own. Next is the New York Luxrays, and even though I didn't give it the best rankings here, I think Alex is just such a capable coach, and this is where his comfort zone in terms of teams. So I think he's going to do really well this season. That's why I put him in third. Next is Sky, staying in the middle of the line. I think he has just the right balance. Next is Medi with the South Holland Pyroars. Again, just not enough defense to support that massive offense. Lolly with the Copenhagen Cobalions. Not enough offense to support that massive defense. Amherst Excelgors. Prophylaxis. No. Sorry, buddy. And Mora with the Monterey Gyarados. Hyper offensive team. Doesn't work in leagues. I'd rather, like, the order of things that go is like balance, followed by stall, followed by hyper offense. Hyper offensive in leagues, it's something you can prepare for. On the ladder, works really well. Like, your team isn't going to have something for every Pokemon just slapping you in the face with big moves. Slapping you in the face with big moves. So those are my thoughts. If you agree or disagree, please comment, and I'd love to see everybody discuss this down below. This is a real discussion forum. I don't know how long this video is, but thank you guys for watching. And again, if you agree, disagree, tell me down below. Thank you.